a vintage like this is not just it's not because the weather was nice. Obviously, weather is the main thing, but there are so many coincidences and timing issues of particular meteorologic characteristics that are essential. For example, you have to have nasty wet weather in the winter previous to a great vintage. It's got to be nasty wet because that's when you replenish the soil. And you definitely don't want real beautiful, warm, sunny weather in early March. Because if you have that, guys are going out of their minds. Oh no, because the bud break is happening too early. And what happens if the bud break is too early, you're guaranteed a frost afterwards. And so then you lose all those buds, and then you're 3 weeks or a month behind, and then you can't ripen fruit. So you don't want good weather in some of you. Sometimes you want cold, miserable weather. It doesn't matter how much rain you get at that time. The next stage of the flowering, you definitely want beautiful weather. Because you want stable, you don't want wind, you don't want rain, because they're self-pollinating, you need consistent pollination because that's the only way you'll have consistent ripening. That times the whole year, growing season is when, and if you have consistent flowering. So, for example, if you have terrible unsettled conditions in flowering, you can end up with losing all the fruit. You don't have any, or you end up with lots of what is called couleurs, which are like little buckshot berries hanging in loose clusters that never ripen. They are hard as a rock and green, couleur. Or you get mirandage, which is hens and eggs. So you get nice grapes, but inside the same cluster, and sometimes you don't even know it, you have these little buckshot things. And you definitely don't want those clusters in the wine, because it will change, and the wine will be tart and tannic and acidic and unripe. So you don't want any of those things happening if you can avoid it. If you haven't avoided it, you got to cut it off anyway, and then your volume's down. Then you need another condition that happens in the year when you have vevaison, which is when the grapes, which were green, now change color, and that's a hormonal thing, genetically timed in the sequence, and it happens within a few days period. They don't become completely, for example, completely black in a few days period, but it's a fundamental change in the texture, and that happens rapidly. And it's from that point, though, that you want the water off. Then you don't want any more water. You want sun. You need sun is great, but you need dry. And good dry temperatures. Heat spike is okay once in a while, not too many. Don't want sunburn. You got to manage your canopy so that you're not burning things. You don't want excess water. You don't want hail. And that's the danger here in a maritime climate. There are hailstorms that come in July and August too, and they will just destroy the clusters themselves. So you don't need that. You need good weather to go all the way into October, as late as possible. And if all those conditions are met, you have a vintage like 2010. And then the fact that, can just imagine how coincidentally all that can be perfect, why it's unusual to have such perfect